What's up and welcome back to another live stream with Gizmo Slip Tech. Today we are benchmarking the Legion 9i Part 3. So there's two previous parts to this. This is continuing through the game list. We are, I believe, at Dying Light 2 is the current game that we are on. So we're going to get that loaded up. Yeah. Oh, also I want to do Blender. Maybe we should do Blender here right at the beginning. Probably got to download that too. I don't think it's downloaded, but it's the last synthetic test that we need to get done. I think, oh, that's actual Blender. I need the Blender benchmark. I had actual Blender loaded on here for the 3D modeling test, but I could not get it to work. So this is less than a gig to download, so it shouldn't take too long. And this will give everyone a chance to get onto the live stream. Now, there will be timestamps on the live stream coming soon, usually within a day or two. And those live stream timestamps should pinpoint you right to the benchmark specifically. And even the timestamp should have the actual benchmark like resolution and settings that we ran on the timestamp name. So if you want to quickly jump between the different things we test today, then that's the best way to do it. So while we're waiting here, I just want to mention, thank you so much to everyone that is subscribed to the channel, and if you're not subscribed, please get subscribed and hit that notification bell so you can hop in with live streams. Currently, I'm trying to do them very frequently, multiple a week, maybe even daily. We'll see how it goes, but trying to do about 2 hours of live streaming at a time. And so I think today we'll be able to get through all the rest of the games from Dying Light 2 all the way down to the end, I think, assuming we don't run into major problems. But sometimes, you have to troubleshoot stuff. Earlier today, I hopped into Rust, did the tutorial. I also did the Where Winds Meet, kind of looking around the world in there. Completed the tutorial and intro area of the game, basically, because it takes like 2 hours of tutorial to get through all of that. And so Where Winds Meet is it's kind of a cool open world MMORPG, basically, and you can play with your friends. At least that's the impression that I got from it, and I believe it's a Chinese game, currently one of the top 10 games on the Steam charts. So here we are, RTX 5090, we're in turbo mode. Go ahead and run this benchmark. So Blender benchmark runs 3 tests, and it benchmarks the GPU or CPU. I mean, we only really care about the GPU performance because you're not going to render anything with the CPU when it comes to 3D rendering here. But welcome everyone that's got on the stream, and thank you so much for stopping by. And if you are new to the live streams, I'm trying to focus the live streams around benchmarking and being chill, hanging out, talking about different tech things. So if you have any questions about anything, feel free to ask random stuff now that's not necessarily related to the Legion 9i. Obviously, keeping it mostly related to the 9i is good, but it doesn't have to be. So if you have any questions on your own laptop or future laptops, or if it's a good deal that you're looking at or not, feel free to ask anything in chat. And all of these benchmarks will be compiled into a primary review video that'll be much shorter. So that's the goal. Okay, we're on the third benchmark now. Here in Thailand, they do these Skittles in a little tub so that you can pop Skittles into your mouth without having to touch the Skittles with your fingers, like you would in America, usually with a plastic bag. So, you know, if you're a construction worker or you have dirty hands, you can eat Skittles without, I don't know, without having to get your dirty fingers on them. I think it's a really smart idea, actually, because it's great for when I'm working out to be able to pop Skittles in my mouth. Little workout fuel. Okay, so we need to turn off the overlay, and let's get a snipping tool. Okay, and can you get the graph ready for the blender, Fern? What's that? Yeah, we just got the numbers. Okay. Okay, so here is our results. 3,997 for Monster, Junk Shop 2,114, Classroom 2,005. So very, very nice. That's probably going to be our best result that we have, because I think we have not tested a 5090 full power yet. Let's see here. Pulling up our comparison graph here. Yeah. Okay. Well, beautiful. Okay, here's our blender benchmark. We do have a full power 5090 XMG Neo 16 with the HX3D. The HX3D not helping at all in 3D rendering because it's basically pure GPU performance that you need for this. And this is the slightly, you know, overclocked / shut modded maybe 5090 in the Legion 9i, so it's scoring another 5 to 6% here, more than the Neo 16 at 8,118 versus 7,700. So overall, very impressive result for Blender, the best we have so far. And this is a full 1,000 points more than the Pro 7i with a 5080. Actually, it's 1,112 points. So let's see here. 1,112 points. Let's just calculate this up real quick. So that's 15.9% faster than a 5080 in the Pro 7i. So getting a 15%, almost 16% performance bump by going with the 5090 instead of a 5080. Very nice. Okay, so let's move into our first test for the games today. Dying Light 2, Stay Human. Reville says, yo Brandon, after seeing your videos, I finally went with the Zephyrus G16 RTX 5070 Ti as I'm a student. Cool. Now, one thing I want to note about my experience with the 5070 Ti that should help you out is drivers, at least on mine, are not stable unless I'm running driver version 577.0. The only downside here is when I tried to play Arc Raiders on 577, it was a little bit buggy. So depending on the game, it may be an issue for now until NVIDIA gets their drivers figured out. But that's my long-term experience so far. It's been really great for video editing, and all the games that I've wanted to play pretty much flawlessly except for Arc Raiders. But yeah. And it's definitely the best value in the Zephyrus G16 compared to the 5080 and 5090, which barely see a performance bump in games. Okay, so time to do the benchmark. We've got high quality ray tracing, 4K, DLSS to quality, reflex is on, VSync is off, frame generation we turn on for this game, because AAA title, basically in AAA titles, I try to test it the way a gamer would actually play it. So, okay, let's see here. AJ says, hello, is the 9i the best 18-inch laptop you've reviewed so far? Yes, in terms of, in a lot of ways it's the best. I think the Scar 18 has a better display. The Legion 9i has more upgradability, has higher power limits for the CPU and GPU than the Scar. And so overall, I think that it's going to be the highest performing 18-inch laptop that you can get, pretty much. I do think the 3D display is really cool. Don't necessarily have to get it though if you're not into using 3D display. It's still kind of a gimmick, but it'd be also kind of cool. If I was buying this, I would get the 3D display because I want to see what Lenovo does with it long term. All right, so 4K plus, DLSS on quality, frame generation on, high quality ray tracing enabled. Let's benchmark this. And turn on our overlay. Dying Light 2, we cannot capture 1% lows because it switches between scenes and then the 1% lows are all messed up. Okay. So you can look at the 1% lows right now, and then now you can't look at the 1% lows anymore. So, because of the blips that happen when it jumps between scenes. But I suppose you could look at the 1% lows over here on the frame view. They are really good. Frame view is doing like 60, 82 for 1% low, 79, 84. So very, very good 1% lows overall. The only drop frames really are the jumps between the scenes. Okay. Not just performance-wise, but laptop as a whole. Well, I'll say the Legion 9i has really great speakers, has really great keyboard. Trackpad is, I think, plastic, but still pretty good trackpad. Ports are really good, though I had a glitchy left side USB-C port. But in terms of actual port selection, the ports are really, really good. And upgradability is insane on this one because you get the four SODIMM RAM slots if you want to go to really high amounts of RAM, or the, I believe, is it 3 or 4 M.2 slots? I haven't opened this up yet to double check, but I think it's like 4 M.2 slots, which is very insane as well. And then the display, while not being the brightest or the most vibrant, which would go to the Scar, you know, or the best contrast, you know, so you're kind of giving that up. And also the fact that it's not QHD plus, it's 4K plus, so there's that as well, which can be a positive and a negative. But at least it's 4K plus 240 hertz. And then, of course, dual native. The dual native is pretty sweet for 440 hertz if you're an esports junkie. So 101.04 for our median FPS, which is the value we look at in the benchmark here. Let's go ahead and go back to we'll go back to our resolution and we'll drop it to QHD and rerun. QHD plus, save yes. Cool. So one of the most common questions I've been getting is, do I think the laptop looks as good in QHD as 4K? And I'll say no. When running games and apps in QHD compared to the 4K, this is an IPS display, and the way it splits the pixels just doesn't look that good. When you drop it down to full HD plus for the dual native side of things, that's when things are looking a lot better. It's it's basically you get a true native look to the display, though it is only full HD. So, and it's an 18-inch. So I still think most of the people, 99% of the time, are going to run this in 4K plus with 240 hertz because that's a high enough refresh rate even for esports games. And then if you need more frames, you can just use upscaling with DLSS. Typically you can use that to boost your frame rates to keep them very, very good. Overall here in Dying Light, GPU temps are looking great. CPU temps are on the warm side. Overall performance is phenomenal, 153 FPS. I don't have comparison data necessarily to compare this with, but I think we have some historic data that we're gonna, so basically right now, I'm in the process of collecting and having my team collect the benchmark data and compile it into graphs that we can use for comparing some of these games that I've been testing for years now with a whole bunch of different laptops. So basically pulling in all this data from different GPUs, including RTX 3000 and 4000 GPUs, so we can look at some historical stuff as well. And that'll make our graphs that we use to compare the data even better. Okay, 160.98 is our QHD result. So very good. So instead of trying to switch your base resolution to QHD plus, I think it's just better to use more upscaling. Like I was saying, a QHD plus just doesn't look native. So we can run this at full HD plus as well. Might as well run it for a moment in full HD plus. Anvesh says, love from India, watching live after so long. I'm still rocking the M16R1 Alienware 4070 13700HX. Nice. That one's a nice computer. For 2K gaming on ray tracing on ultra settings plus DLSS on quality plus frame gen, 2 times is the best setting. Yeah, I would say generally speaking, I never use 4x frame gen ever, pretty much, because it might boost the frame rate up to 300, but it also increases the latency, and it is already smooth enough on 2x. So why would I want to increase the latency any further? It's probably why they didn't release 4x multi-frame gen originally. They were like, it's kind of pointless. But now they're like trying to push it as a marketing stunt, is what I think. And so they were like, look at all the frames you can get with 4x. And when 2x is actually more usable and more realistic to run in the vast majority of titles. To be able to run 4x, you need an even higher base frame rate than 2x. And then if you already have a high base frame rate, 2x is going to get you like 180, 200 frames per second at that point. I don't know. And then you go to 4x and you're like, what's even the point? I don't know. That's my thought on the 4x. 3x is a middle ground. It's more usable, but 2x is even more usable. So I just stick to 2x, keep the latency low. The smoothness is still excellent. So in general, I still recommend just keeping it at 2x, even if you have 4x accessible to you. Right. Does the keyboard feel too hot to the touch? So the left side of the keyboard where you put your wrist rest gets warm, but not hot. That's what I'll say. If you really want a cool wrist rest when gaming, go with Scar series. 202.4 FPS at Full HD Plus Ultra settings. All right, so there's our Dying Light 2 benchmark. We're going to move into Oblivion next. .4x mode is only worth it in Cyberpunk, assuming you have 70, 80 base FPS. I mean, increasing the latency for increased smoothness, like I said, it's just not a good enough trade-off for me, because I just want a responsive gaming experience that's also smooth. I mean, 4X it works. Also, I don't think very many people will be able to tell the difference between 200 FPS with 2X and 400 FPS with 4X. Like, very few people would know or care about that, you know? All right, so Oblivion, it does not have our saves for some reason. I don't know. We'll try it. It says it's cloud synced, but it does not appear to be cloud synced here because it doesn't have my saves. I have a bunch of saves. Like I played it for 60 hours and I don't know, I probably played it for 40 hours plus like 20 hours of benchmarking. Yeah. Okay, so we're gonna have to start a new game. And so what we'll do for the new game here is run through the tutorial really fast. We'll just let's go here and I suppose the only way to reliably benchmark this is here. Okay, let's check our settings here. Full screen, uncapped, ultra default with ray tracing on ultra, DLSS to quality, frame generation on, notice how a lot of games haven't even messed with they have not even messed with adding 4X frame gen. And this is a new released version of Oblivion, and they still haven't even worried about trying to make it happen. Okay, so we need to go over here for a little bit, and
your own kinsman think you're a piece of human trash.
so we have to wait a moment. And the Emperor will come, and then we can follow the Emperor.
You're going to die. You're going to die.
Preview says part 2, not part 3. Okay, let me see here. I need to update the thumbnail for today's video. Let's see. The title says part 3, but yeah, the thumbnail says part 2. I've got part 3 thumbnail already made. Cool. There we go. Thanks for the heads up. Okay.
What's this prisoner doing here? This cell is supposed to be off limits.
Usual mix-up at the watch.
Never mind. Get that gate open.
Okay, so this, right now, this 1% low is bugged. It's saying 49,
Let's go. We're not out of this yet.
but right here it says 90.
I've seen you. Let me see your face. Deep then the stars were right.
Jean-Luc Picard.
God's gift. Assassin my own.
Okay, we'll have to get through this.
We must keep moving.
All right, so let's just start a really quick benchmark
We'll
here,
close this one. There's no way to open it from the other side.
going into the tunnel following.
Like this, you're lucky day. Just stay out of our way.
we'll just follow the guards.
Stand aside, prisoner.
Hey, just go. Don't worry about me.
Close up left.
And this is, I think, going to be our
Captain's down.
benchmark right here.
For the Emperor! Oblivion take you. Show me what you've got.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Die, you scum. Watch your back, boys. Take that. Oblivion take you. Take
I'm
him down.
pretty sure we can just let these guys duke it out here. There we go.
There's trouble ahead. Are you all right, sire? We're clear. Captain Lenovo? She's dead. Sorry, sire.
And once
Could they be waiting for us?
he goes down the stairs, we'll end it.
Don't know, but it's too late to go back now.
0, F10. Okay.
They won't be able to
Result is 94 FPS, 54 for a 1% low. Ooh, one thing I didn't think about. I should have made a new save.
Let's move.
Let's go back to here. Yes. And this way we can redo the benchmark at QHD.
Sire, we must keep moving.
And
Better not close this one. There's no way to open it from the other side.
okay, and let's go to our settings. Go down to QHD plus. Beautiful. Ultra, ray tracing on, DLSS on quality.
Looks like this is your lucky day. Just stay out of our way.
Okay, so now we'll follow them through and also start the frame view benchmark. Wow. Very nice frames, considering it's ray tracing on at the same time. 175.
Close up left. Protect the Emperor.
Protect yourself.
All right, we're gonna go down and do a punch and then back up. Go punch.
You're lucky I like you. Otherwise you'd be dead already.
And then
Are you all right, sire? We're clear for them.
there we go.
She's dead. Sorry, sire. Have to. Could they be waiting for us here?
And then we end it right there. Okay, so QHD plus, we got 155.98 for our frame view benchmark with 1% lows.
Don't try to follow.
The downside here is that I think certain areas of the open world are going to be worse. Yeah, ciao. The issue is I won't I prefer to benchmark those areas like near like the red portal things because they have a lot of intense ray tracing. But the problem is if the game won't save my saves, then I can't benchmark anywhere but the very beginning of the game. So, I mean, there's a lot of ray tracing in these tunnels too, but it's just not as complex of an environment, which I much prefer to have a more complex environment. So I would say it's not ideal to benchmark like this, but it's the best we got for right now. God of War is next. God of War Ragnarök is next. We did God of War in part 1, live stream part 1. Let me check chat again, all right? Okay. I wonder also in the future how many games they're going to add. Yeah. Aren't you basically running a 5080 desktop chip clocked down like to down 500 to 1000? I believe it's a 5070 Ti desktop chip, which is very similar to a 5080, but it's a little bit smaller. A little bit smaller CUDA core count, and a lot less voltage. You know, a lot less wattage going through the system. Okay. Jendor says, many people are interested to see super old games for insane FPS. If you mind, maybe do it later once. I mean, some of these are older. Like Shadow of the Tomb Raider is pretty old. All right, let's go check our settings out because why is it doing this? It's not letting me go to 4K unless I'm in windowed mode for some reason. And then that's actually not technically windowed mode. Or not technically 4K plus. Now it's... Let me try turning off frame gen. Maybe that is the reason. Well, hey, there we go. Now we're at 4K. So weird. Oh, right. So this resolution here, this resolution in God of War Ragnarok, it is actually the upscaled. Whatever the render resolution is, that's what this is showing here. I forgot. Okay, so God of War shows you your full, if you're doing DLSS on quality, it will show QHD here because you're upscaling from QHD plus to 4K plus. If you're on DLAA, it'll show the full resolution. All right, so DLSS on quality, everything else on ultra. Good, good. And frame gen will be on for NVIDIA DLSS frame gen. Very good. Okay, so I am now 4+ hours into the actual gameplay. I believe this is our benchmark area, though. The 41-minute one? It's either the 41-minute or the 20-something minute one. Let's see. No, it's the other one. 27 minutes. So the very first manual save one, I think. Let's see. Yes. Okay. So this is the save that I've been using to compare different laptops. So once we get over this log, we'll start the benchmark. Boom, boom. All right, we're benchmarking now. And it's a nice little combat scene to benchmark. Good little hack and slash action. Nice. Okay, and there's that. 146, 102 is what we got for frame view. 146, 127 is what we got for Afterburner. But the average is exactly the same. The 1% load being better on Afterburner. Interesting. But very nice. I think technically what I did was I let them wail on me until I die. And then right before I die, I save the benchmark. So let's try that, because I want to make sure that we do it exactly the same. All right, so no, don't do anything. This way the camera is exactly positioned the same for every single laptop. But that gives you some idea of performance. I don't think it'll be too much different. But the main thing here is that I'm trying to get as repeatable results as possible. All right, and now we end it right there. And we got 148, 129. Let's just use the Afterburner values here. 148, 129, so basically the exact same result practically. Hogwarts Legacy, this one's going to be really interesting. Hogwarts Legacy, we do have a comparison graph data that we can look at. Checking chat while we're loading in here. D88 says, I love Lenovo, but is it really worth spending that much on this expensive laptop if you don't play games or only do light video editing and heavy tab browsing? Probably not. I mean, if you're just doing light games and video editing, then I'd probably recommend something thinner and lighter. Like if you really want to stay with a Lenovo, go Legion 7i. If you want to go with what I would probably recommend, go for something like the Zephyrus G16 that's super thin and light, great speakers, and a 57D Ti version for around $2,100 when it's on sale. That would be great. Gendor says, I mean something like Counter-Strike Source or something from that era. So Counter-Strike Source has been retired. You can't even play it anymore. Like Global Offensive replaced Source, and then Counter-Strike 2 replaced Global Offensive. I don't know. I think there's Counter-Strike 1.6 still around. Like that would be a legacy. Gendor, you played Aeon 1 for 15 years? That's nuts. I don't know if you actually... Okay, so it asked something. Aeon 2 is out in Taiwan, probably the next big MMO when it's released everywhere next year. Runs on Unreal Engine 5. It would be interesting to see it included sometime. 9955 HX3D would probably slay. Yeah, it probably would. Gendor says, and MMOs PCs don't really matter as no PC can handle simple siege with 100 players and only get 20 to 30 FPS. I believe an HX3D CPU would probably still be able to maintain 60 FPS, I bet. I don't know. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I think the HX3D would probably excel in MMO massive battles like that, because that's kind of what the X3D chip with the 3D cache is really designed for. So 4K plus, upscaling QHD plus, basically, to DLSS on quality, frame generation on 2x, ultra settings with ray tracing on ultra. Everything looks correctly set to begin with. By the way, Hogwarts Legacy, at least yesterday, was completely free if you go on Epic Games and hit the download button, save button or whatever. I highly recommend doing that because it's a really fantastic game, a lot of fun, and you can get it for free, at least you could, a few hours ago. I don't know if that's still the case. It's going to stop. They'll probably do it for only 24 hours or something, so it's probably going to stop soon if it's not already done. But worth going to check that out. Hogwarts Legacy, really fun game. if you're a fan of Harry Potter and you like this universe, it's just really amazing. Okay, here we go. So 4K plus, Hogwarts Legacy, ray tracing, everything on Ultra. And I'm going to do frame generation is counting correctly, which is a surprise. We're going to still do a frame gen for our benchmark data. We definitely had some stutters there. Okay, and let's see what we got. Our result was 8936 for our 1% low. So 1% low is not bugged, which is evidenced by this frame time graph not being messed up. So 8936, which means you can basically play this on max settings in 4K. That's really cool. Now we're gonna need to, hold on, I'm gonna have to sneeze. Oh gosh. Okay. Okay, I think we're gonna have to go into our Windows display settings here and drop us to QHD in our Windows settings. Oh, that crashed Hogwarts. Let's try reopening. Hogwarts Legacy. It's just, the reason I love it is I'm a big Harry Potter fan. I've read all the books like three times all the way through. And watched the movies through twice, 2.5 times, maybe 3 times, I can't remember. I've watched the movies several times. Big Harry Potter fan overall. Been less of a fan because of the controversy surrounding the author, but it's still a really fun game world and everything. So it's hard to completely drop it. I understand why some people would, though. Anyway, so the actual game itself is not the same as the books. It's completely different from the books. It's like a generation or two before, I believe, the books of what, we're like 30 years or something before Harry Potter or whatever. And so it's like a whole different crisis that Hogwarts goes through, and it's still really fun and it's good story writing. It's very similar in quality to the books for storytelling, and you get to go through the actual Hogwarts, campus and explore and make your own character and make good, evil or good decisions, and how you want to live in the world. And I like that. It's pretty cool. Okay, so now it looks like in QHD our frame time graph is bugged. Evidenced by the fat line here, is why I say that. So I don't think Afterburner and FrameView will line up for their results. Okay, here we go. We're running through QHD plus 201 FPS right now on average. Is very, very good. Our GPU is hitting 147, 150 watts is very good as well. CPU doing 90. Yeah, this is very well tuned. Overall, excellent, phenomenal performance in a very demanding area of the world. 196, 64 for our Hogwarts comparative data that we can use to compare with some of the other laptops on the market. I believe the X3D still beats this, but not by much. So overall, very impressive performance in Hogwarts Legacy. If we wanted to go down to Can we? Okay, so now we're in full HD plus. Might as well just run this. So people who are going to want to play with the full HD mode, haha. The game is bugged right now. We'll have to reopen it if we're going to do that. I'm not going to worry about it. We're going to go back to 4K. And we're going to open up Path of Exile. See how we do. Hogwarts is free until the 18th of December. Awesome. Okay, thanks for the heads up. So you'll have a few days to snag the free Hogwarts. You definitely want to do that. CS Source is another CS available in Steam. Okay, that's good to know. I thought that Global Offensive replaced it pretty much and everyone moved on from that one. But you're probably right. Okay, so we're going to benchmark this. We're going to benchmark this at 4K plus and QHD plus. "100 years before." Thank you for the clarification. It's been a while now since I played Hogwarts Legacy. It's hard to believe it's over 2 years old. Isn't it crazy how fast time flies?
Not now.
Weird. We're not getting any FPS overlay right now from Afterburner. It's weird. All right, so DLSS on quality, 4K plus. We're gonna have everything maxed out on settings. Hey, now we got our overlay. I don't know what the heck was happening with the overlay. But, so we benchmark this by running from left to right until we get from the left side of the map to the right side of the map. And wow, very, very good FPS right now. All right. Do 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 do. Yahoo! We need to go down. Did they change this map? Well, okay, there we go. 167 is a very crazy amount of FPS. There it is. So we're just going over to the Grellwood. Bingo. 165, 108, or 166, 127. Probably use the afterburner here for this one. Is there any benefit with the i9 versus the i7? Looks like you took the question away, but basically no. For the most part, no. Now we'll go to QHD Plus. We'll go back. All right, and we're going to reset. Interesting to see. We are getting more FPS here at QHD.
No mana.
All right. 207 or 208, 151. I think we'll go with the afterburner on this. Very nice overall performance. Nice little uptick going to QHD. I'm actually surprised. If we went down to full HD, I don't know if we'd get much performance bump or not. Let's see. Oops, did I not save it? Okay, wow, 270. Now, the thing with Path of Exile is the really challenging to run areas is actually like the really advanced maps at the very end. So it's not exactly like the fairest benchmark when basically the advanced maps have like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of enemies, and only like an HX3D is going to be very smooth in that kind of scenario. Which is the main reason why I would consider this benchmark not ideal, but it's the only repeatable benchmark that I can really do on lots of different systems. So 224, 176. 224, 176 is very, very good. I'm impressed. That said, QHD, I mean, even the 4K was plenty playable, so that's probably what I would do. PUBG is next. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. So Light asks, is there any benefit between the i9 and the i7 Pro in performance? Did the CPU just say 103? Yeah, it gets really hot in this system. I don't know why I just ran PUBG. I don't know why it needs to install new files again. It doesn't make any sense. Okay, so the i9 and the i7, between an Intel i9 and an Intel i7, that doesn't really exist. Now it's like Core Ultra 9 versus Core Ultra 7, I believe is the terminology now. But if you're talking about 14th gen, 13th gen, that would be the i7 versus i9. Or you might be talking about the Legion 9i versus the Pro 7i, which is the 16-inch versus the 18-inch. I'm not sure exactly what your question is, Light. I am going to try to answer both. So an i7 and an i9 have similar performance cores, but the i9 CPU had more efficiency cores, 8 extra efficiency cores. And the efficiency cores can help with multi-threaded performance like Cinebench R24. But it doesn't help with gaming. Gaming performance should be very similar between an i7 and an i9. The Legion 9 versus the Legion 7, the CPU performance should be very similar, though I think we saw slightly higher CPU wattage pull on the Legion 9i in terms of CPU performance. GPU performance should be very similar as well between the Legion 9i and the Pro 7i. So basically the maximum performance you're going to get in a gaming laptop with an RTX 5080, 5090, it's going to be equal to, if not a little bit better than most other 5090s or 5080s in other laptops. Okay, so I know I already installed that, but we're going to ignore that anyway. So yeah, I would not expect much performance difference between the Legion 9 and the Legion Pro 7i. It should be very similar as long as the specs are similar. In fact, I would say the Pro 7i with the faster memory is going to be slightly better in certain situations. And then if you need to have a lot of memory for running AI local models or server tasks or VMs or whatever reason you want to run with a lot of memory, then you can spend a whole bunch of money and buy up to 192 gigs of memory. I actually probably would recommend just buying it straight from a Lenovo right now because it's only like $600 for the upgrade, I think, which is probably a lot better than buying it aftermarket. Aftermarket prices right now for that would probably be in the thousands. So, okay. Yeah, so for higher FPS between the Legion 9i and the i7 or 7i Pro, the Pro 7i should be slightly higher FPS, probably, if they're both configured with Intel. But if you want the most FPS and you're only getting a 5080, then going with the Legion Pro 7 is probably the way to go. Okay, so I did a couple tests here. We're going to do Erangel, which is the benchmarking map I typically use because there's a really tough city to run in. And this is the one I typically would benchmark. That said, I did test in Paramo or whatever that map is, and that one, the Paramo or whatever, that one got like 220 FPS in 4K low. If we go to our settings, we are going to be testing with low settings, except for, so 4K plus, and then it's the very low preset, but anti-aliasing is set to ultra and textures are set to ultra, as those will not affect our FPS. No VSync. View distance, we probably also want to put to ultra. But we definitely want foliage on very low because that lets us see through the foliage better. And then we want to maximize our FPS, so we want to turn everything else off. Okay, so basically 3 settings on ultra and then everything else on low if you want to maximize your, like these are the best esports gaming settings for PUBG. And so that's what we're going to try to test out today. And with PUBG, PUBG is a really weird game. If you're in a city, like it is really complex and lots of things to calculate, and you really become CPU bound. But when you get outside of the city, it becomes super GPU bound, and you get into like way more FPS. So it's a really odd game to benchmark because the FPS swings super high into the hundreds when you're out in the middle of nowhere, and down into like really low, like sometimes under 100, depending on how good your CPU is, but probably more like between 80 and 150, or maybe 130, I think is what I was seeing on this one when I was doing some pre-testing inside of the big complex cities. Yeah, Anyway, okay, so checking chat. Hard Hitter Gaming says, yo, glad I caught you on stream. I've been a fan for a while. Got the Predator 18 2023 with the RTX 4060. Okay, so 4060. Watched your review after I bought the 4060. I'm happy with my purchase, but I have a question. Which is a better mode to run, performance or turbo? I believe turbo mode is the highest performance mode, but it'll probably be a little bit louder. I believe that's what they would describe that. Yeah, so Light, if you want the best gaming FPS, you want to get the Legion Pro 7 with a RTX 5080 because they don't offer a 5090 in the Pro 7. Because you'll get more FPS out of that than with a Legion Pro 7i. Unless you get a Pro 7i with a 5090, and then in only GPU-bound game scenarios, you might see more FPS. It's a really weird scenario here, but if you want to get a nice, save some money and get the best FPS in esports games by far, when you become CPU-bound, like in games like this, so right now, we're in the middle of nowhere. We have a lot of players, though. We're getting 220 FPS. We are CPU bound still. We're only hitting 90% GPU utilization, so we're at least largely CPU bound. 108 watts, 100 degrees on that CPU, and still largely CPU bound to some extent, but we're maximizing the GPU a lot. We've got a lot of GPU utilization happening. So our benchmark is in this Yasanaya. That's where we're going to benchmark. And this is the goal of this is, of course, to actually see what kind of FPS you get when you go to a really complex city, a very difficult to run city. Like, we know that we can get into like 200 FPS with this 200 plus FPS when you're not in a city, but when you're in a city, what do you get? And the more complex the city, the more buildings there are, the more likely you're going to run into some issues. So we're going to go ahead and eject here. I did play PUBG a lot back in like, I don't know, 2020-ish. Maybe a little before. Shortly out, like when it was in its peak popularity, is when I was playing it for about 6 months to a year or something. It was my main game I was playing for multiplayer. And it was fun. I really loved it. So I do have a lot of experience playing this game. Dang, I would be screwed if I was going to play this whole match all the way through because there's just circles in the far bottom. Light says, I got the Pro 7 5090. Okay, well that's fine. I mean, it's still going to be a great laptop. It's just in esports games, the Pro 7 with the 9955 HX3D would outperform it in the majority of titles for just esports CPU-bound gaming scenarios. GPU-bound gaming scenarios, you're still going to beat the Pro 7 because the CPU doesn't help the GPU enough, typically, to actually outclass the entire GPU upgrade. So no problem, hard hitter. And I'm glad you like the laptop. I think the Predator 18, back when it was, especially when it was on sale, it was a really nice budget-oriented laptop. That was an 18-incher. I mean, it wasn't too budgety, It was like, it had a lot of premium features, but the price tag wasn't too high, at least when it was on sale, especially. Okay, so notice how as we get closer to the city and the game engine's actually rendering everything, Look at our FPS, it's dropping down into the 150s. Nice. So I look this way, we're at 207. I look this way, we're at 260. All right. So I believe we start at this pillar, or maybe this pillar right here. Okay, and we run this line. There we go. Nice. Well, this is putting out higher FPS than when I was testing it earlier today. When I was testing it earlier today, I was only doing like 130 or something. So it is really oddly inconsistent. All right. So 191, 128. And that's at 4K plus. Let's rock it. So like keep in mind that like the HX3D in this scenario is getting like 300 FPS, I believe. In my side-by-side HX3D versus Intel comparison. So like that's the kind of difference you get when you get the HX3D. It's just a nice performance bump up when you're CPU bound. And you can see we're currently hitting 90% GPU utilization, and we turn around and now we're hitting 67% GPU utilization. So let's switch to QHD plus. Did it actually switch? I don't think it switched. Not, our size of our bar graph and everything did not change. Now it's switched, okay. Nice. Now I'm anticipating we're going to get very similar performance because we were CPU bound before and we're still going to be CPU bound now. And so lowering our resolution should not boost our FPS. At least not by much, maybe just a tiny bit. Nice, 188, 131. So we actually scored just a few FPS less, 3 FPS down in our performance. Kind of funny. But yeah, I loved playing PUBG so much. I think I got I can't remember. Maybe I'm misremembering. I can't remember for sure. Right at the beginning of the season, I was doing ranked, and I think I got into the top 10 players of PUBG for like just like a little while. Because I won like 3 games or something right at the season reset, and so it put my MMR like super high. So that's PUBG performance at 4K, over 200 FPS in most scenarios. Then inside the cities, like 190 FPS. That's nice. That's still very, very good performance, obviously. And I mean, that's the thing. Like the Intel CPU, it's still putting up good numbers. And it's not like you're going to be like, oh no, 190 FPS or whatever, you know, it's like it's still smooth to play. And the HX3D just puts up like absurd numbers. Like, oh wow, 700 something FPS in Counter-Strike compared to 500 something FPS. I mean, 500 is still dang good, but 700 is pretty sweet if you want to get one of those new QHD monitors that run 700 hertz refresh rate. Okay. Some people complain about a bug with the HX3D that it throttles at 600 hertz at random when it reaches proc hot temps. If I have not noticed that behavior in the XMG Neo 16 9955 HX3D that I have on hand. Ooh. Ooh, 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 what in the world is this? That's a weird error. Let's see here. Let me check if the Hogwarts graph has been updated. Yes, it has. Okay. All right, so here's Hogwarts Legacy benchmark. The 9955 HX3D coming in at the very top, 214 FPS. The Legion 9i with the 5090 is doing 196. 64 for 1% low is kind of low. The Intel 285HX actually doing quite well. I mean, it's a very CPU bound area of Hogwarts, right? That's one thing to keep in mind. So this Intel 285HX is a slightly upgraded CPU. Red Dead Redemption crashing out on us. So the 5090 not really putting up much better FPS, 189 versus 196. Very similar levels of performance between the Legion Pro 7i 5080 and the 5090. So very interesting. Now, let's see if we can figure out what's going on with Red Dead Redemption. I am going to restart the computer one time. And if Red Dead Redemption does not want to work, I will not spend any more time troubleshooting it. Because I've had so many problems benchmarking Red Dead Redemption 2 in the past as well. So just a lot of random crashes and bugs and licensing and Rockstar problems with our launcher, and I don't even know what this error is really about. It's saying it's running out of space, but the system memory was only saying like less than 20 gigs out of our 64 being used. And my SSD I know is not full, so I don't know. Maybe the onboard SSD is full. Maybe that'd be worth double checking. Okay, Windows hello. It worked quite well. Let's see our Windows. Yeah, our Windows still has 90 gigs, our Windows SSD. And my external drive has a whole terabyte that's open still. Afterburner, frame view. This is being surprisingly responsive considering it's opening all of the initial Windows apps. Okay. Okay, so let me talk to you about this 9955HX3D stuttering when it hits proc hot temps. That's a great question. So I've seen that behavior in the past with the Alienware Area 51M that was all AMD CPU, AMD GPU. Whenever the AMD CPU hit 100 degrees or 95 degrees, whenever it hit that proc hot temp, it would trigger a hard stutter. And the only way I found around it was to prevent the CPU from reaching the thermal temperature. Like, that was it. So, but the problem was CPU-bound games, you would want to run at higher levels of performance, and it would slam the CPU hard enough that it pretty much would stutter every time. The primary way to get around that stutter is probably to power limit the CPU down enough to where it does not ever thermal throttle, and to make sure that you run the fans at a high enough power to keep the CPU from hitting that. Now, the CPU should not be doing that, and if we're seeing that level of behavior, that kind of behavior, that's not good. And AMD needs to troubleshoot what's going on, because it does not do that on the XMG Neo 16 with the HX3D. Okay, so it did it again. It's a graphics driver deferred memory error. I don't know what the heck is going on. So we're not doing Red Dead Redemption. We're moving on to Rust. Man, Red Dead Redemption, it was working today when I preloaded it to test it, and now it doesn't work for some reason. Oh well. All right, so Red Dead Redemption is such an amazing game. just highly recommend that game if you like AAA single-player story games, but it is awful for its reliability and just getting the game engine or game even to work on all the different laptops I install. Like half the laptops I install it on, it just does not work, which is crazy town to me. All right, Rust. Rust is a open world survival PvP multiplayer battle royale, not really battle royale, but like a survival battler. I don't know how would you call this game, but it's like we want to not do premium, and let's do a very busy. Wow, 600 players in this one. Let's try it. All right. So I did the tutorial of Rust today on the Legion 9. It was running great, no issues. Yeah, I think the key light is to basically power limit the CPU so it never hits the proc hot, and you make sure the fans are running high enough, or use a laptop cooler to keep the CPU from ever reaching the proc hot temp to prevent the hard stutter from occurring until AMD gets their head out of their butt and fixes the problem, because it should not be happening. And it's something that might be on Lenovo too, something with their Lenovo AMD need to collaborate to figure out what's going on. Okay, so I probably should not have activated myself yet, but okay, graphics. Currently we're on max graphics settings, and our screen's at QHD. Let's go to 4K. All right, max frame rate set to 240. All right. Wow, only 87 FPS. Nobody kill me, please. We could go kill this guy. Okay, I'm just kidding. Then we're not going to kill anybody. Wow. All right. So looking at our performance, we are GPU bound in this scenario. Of course, it makes sense because we are. It makes sense because we're running 4K with all the settings maxed. Uh-oh. There's somebody there. Okay, so if you were to actually play this, though, I think a lot of people, we're doing 70 FPS. Let's just sit in this one spot to do this test. It's very hard to do a benchmark on this game. I'm not sure how you'd even benchmark it, really. We got someone mining over there. 72 FPS, 64.1% lows. We are GPU bound. Let's go to low settings now. Low preset. Okay, the game definitely looks quite a bit different. All right, now we're going to 11390 at 4K plus. Very nice. $112.80. I guess that guy's probably another starter. He's not got the advanced stuff yet. So 112.83 at 4K plus low settings. Let's go to QHD now. And I'm not sure exactly how we should really benchmark this. Oh wow, so we're still getting almost the same FPS, but just a little bit higher. Okay. Hold on. Our frame view needs to be set to be F10 instead of scroll lock. All right. So now we're doing 122.98 at QHD low settings. Very CPU bound. We're only hitting 50% GPU utilization. Let's go to 4K. Oh wait, no, let's go, stay QHD. And then let's go to graphics, set to max. All right, so setting the graphics to max, we're still only getting 80, 78. So when you set the graphics to max, you're slamming the CPU a lot more too. So you stay CPU bound largely. That's pretty interesting. Hey, it's a person. They're naked. I don't want to show nudity on the stream, but thank goodness they censor it. Hello. Oh my gosh, okay. Yeah. Let's go back to 4K, 4K max. I mean, I would probably play this at 4K. I'd probably play this at 4K max. Hey, buddy. Just because, I mean, it's mostly casual. Unless you're about to go PvP someone, then just play this at 4K max, probably. Probably what I would do. It's a whole bunch of naked people everywhere. I'm guessing the people with guns are killing all the newbies, and they're just respawning at the beach over and over, naked. You have to like set up and make a base, basically. Like, what's the best way to benchmark this? Can I make like my own custom server that'll be the exact same every single time I load it? Because that's probably the only way I'm going to get a relatively consistent benchmark out of Rust. But let's see. Let's just go to combat mode. Combat mode activated. Come here. Come here. Wapachow! Wapachow! Oh my gosh. How do I help them up? Okay. I'm sorry. Riveting combat here in Rust. I got your stones. They just yell at me. I don't know. Okay. All right. Anyway, let's go host my own server. No, I don't want to do that. Can I do a local server? Is there no local server in this? This is going to be a very hard game to benchmark if there's no local servers. Disconnect. Light says, I'm wondering if you play games at max settings at QHD, if there's really a big performance difference between the 3D CPU of AMD and Intel's version. So I did a QHD comparison, Light, which I'd recommend you checking out on my channel. If you search HX3D, that's what I did. I did games played at all of their recommended settings, so AAA games on ultra settings, esports games on their low settings, and then I compared their performance, and I found the esports games averaged, I think it was 51% higher FPS with the HX3D, and I think it was only 6 or 7% or something like that for the AAA games with the HX3D. But I also think that the Intel CPU and the XMG Neo may have been bugged a little bit. Okay, so there's Rust. That gives you an idea. Super busy server. 4K was playing pretty dang good, actually. Shadow of the Tomb Raider will be next. Doo-doo. Should have double checked the options. Shabam. No. How do I say just no? Graphics, DLSS on quality, 4K. We want highest with ray tracing on ultra. Yeah. Highest with ray tracing on ultra. That should be good there. We don't have to restart, I don't think. Apparently, it did not save that. Let's double check, did it save it? Okay. I think we're ready to do the benchmark. Let's go. Bum 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 bum. Yeah, I'll have to check out. I will have to check out the Pro 7i thread with the HX3D that you're talking about. See what they say, and I can maybe offer them some tips to help get it working better. See, because I don't know when, if or when Lenovo will send me the Pro 7 with HX3D. So 4K plus, doing 111 FPS, ray tracing on ultra, DLSS on quality. GPU is very GPU bound. CPU is only hitting 56 watts, so not bad. You know, it's kind of crazy that this game is so old. When did this come out? Is it? I think it's 7 years old now. More than 7 years old, and it's still, we're still only looking a little bit over 100 FPS with maxed out settings using quality upscaling. You know, like on the best GPU that you can get. It's pretty nuts. You would really think that we'd be getting, I don't know. I would have thought we would be getting a lot higher FPS. That said, the game's graphics still look pretty dang comparable to a lot of the modern titles being released. So, you know, we have ray tracing, though I think the ray tracing implementation is not nearly as good as something like Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk did a lot better. I feel like that is one of the first games where you go like, okay, the game looks quite a bit better with ray tracing on. Whereas this game, I think you can take or leave ray tracing and just get way better performance just turning it off. All right, so QHD plus, let's see what we get. We averaged 116 FPS during our 4K plus run. It's time to run at QHD. But it's 4K on a laptop. Yeah, but it's still an older title. I would have thought we'd be rocking a lot higher, you know. But I think the reality is when this thing came out, nothing could run it at 4K. Like not even the desktop CPU, not even the desktop GPUs 70 years ago. What would that be? Like a 2080 Ti was probably the best GPU when this thing came out. And yeah, that was the 2080 Ti is like way worse than this 5090. So this doesn't have any frame gen support. This would be a good game for frame gen because of the single player aspect of it. And that would obviously really ramp up the FPS we would get. So, but yeah, even a 2080 Ti probably could not run this very well on max settings. Over 300 FPS for a moment there. Just for a brief glimpse, we had over 300 FPS. But, I mean, you know, this is the kind of thing, if you got a 4K plus display, you could be like, okay, instead of quality upscaling, I'll just go down to balanced upscaling, and then suddenly, boom, you like get 30% more FPS or whatever, you know? So it's like, it lets you scale your FPS dramatically. And in games where you can really ramp the visual quality to the max, then you can, you know, go to DLAA, you know, or whatever for the sharpest fidelity that is possible on a laptop. So that's the one nice thing about the 4K plus display. It's just, it costs more. And also, for certain games that don't have upscaling, it may hurt your overall performance. But that's not very often now. Almost all the modern games coming out now have upscaling, and usually they have frame gen if they're a single player game at least. Shadow of the Tomb Raider 4K native, but that is definitely not with ray tracing and everything maxed out. I really don't think that's the case. But that is yeah. I don't think the settings are the same as what I'm running. 190 average FPS. Maybe 56 does scale right. Because a 3070. A 3070 was the second best GPU, so equal to the 4080 and 5080 in terms of tiering. And a 3070 could get up to like 13,000 in time spy, or around there. And we're getting 26,000 in time spy, so basically double. So yeah, I guess that does sound about right. It's in the right ballpark at least. So maybe that is accurate. 190 average FPS for QHD plus, everything maxed out. Nice. We're not going to do 4K plus. We're going to move on. We have 4 more games to test: Starfield, Rainbow Six Siege, and Where Winds Meet, and The Witcher 3. And I think we're going to finish all the games today. We have 25 minutes left, so we've got about 7 minutes per game. Oh, but you said native. That's the thing. You said native 56, which is... I'm doing upscaling with DLSS on quality, and I'm getting 110. And you're saying native, which is like more than double the resolution. And that makes me think that you have ray tracing turned off for gaming tests. I would say the ray tracing, if you hit highest settings, by default, ray tracing is off. So that's why I would say that it doesn't line up. Do you know, gaming test, if you had ray tracing enabled? Or do you have it right now? Are you able to test it? The ray tracing was really what made Shadow of the Tomb Raider hard to run. If you just turned that off, the game became playable on a lot lower end hardware. Okay. For some reason, it wants to run at 1280 by 720. Okay, there it is. RTX closed, active 66. What do you mean? So you had ray tracing turned off, is what you're saying? Okay, ultra, no VSync, DLSS on quality, frame generation on. Borderless full screen. Render resolution scale is set to 67%, which is the quality upscaling preset. Okay, this all looks correct. 4K plus resolution. Starfield, an amazing game if you're a sci-fi space aficionado like me. I still haven't beat all the side quests, but I beat the main quest line like 6 or 7 times or something like that. I kept restarting the world. And eventually I got I guess bored of the repetition. Frame view for some reason is not popping up, but we don't really need to use frame view for this one, so we're just going to run it. Okay, here we go. 98% GPU utilization, 91% CPU utilization. This is a very CPU-bound part of the game. So, because we have a lot of NPCs. This is like the second biggest city in the world with all the NPCs here. And you have to run through this area a lot. That's why I picked this area for benchmarking. All right, so Sabam, 106.89 with frame gen at 4K. So it feels good. It feels responsive, nice and playable. It looks good, yeah. I'm doing achievements, wow. I'm pretty OP. You guys are not very good at life if you are still running over here. Anyway, gameplay looks good, feels good. Let's go ahead and reload back to our save. Oh, Star Citizen would be a nice test. You're right. That is a good one. I should probably add it. I actually have 2 ships that I bought for Star Citizen. It's like over $500 invested in Star Citizen. It's kind of crazy. And yet I've hardly played it. That's the crazy part. Because I keep waiting for it to actually be good, and then I'm like, when is it going to actually be done and I can actually just play through the game? Like Squadron 42, you know, or like the multiplayer part is worthy of actually spending a lot of my time on. I've probably spent 30, 40 hours playing it, and then I'm like, it's so buggy, like I die in random weird ways, and then the gameplay is not that fun yet because they haven't done the game loops very well. So... Okay, so frame generation, DLSS on quality. We're not getting any higher FPS, I don't think, right? 120 is what we were getting before. So we got 106.89. We got 106.89 for our test. Let's just see what we get this time, but maybe we're so CPU bound that it's not making a difference, but I also am questioning. Okay, yeah, I'm thinking it didn't actually change our resolution here, you know, because the size of our window here has not changed. This is correct. This is how it's supposed to be. Yeah, and now we're hitting 170 FPS. But we're in window mode instead of full screen mode. So I'm guessing that means that for us to get the correct resolution, we're going to have to change our Windows resolution. There we go. All right. Now, I want to make sure that we're actually benchmarking this game correctly. All right, so here we go. 167 FPS to start with. Very smooth. $154, 120. Excellent overall performance.
It's tough living here.
Definitely looks really, really good. So Starfield is a game I think worth playing, especially if you can buy it when it's on sale. I probably wouldn't recommend paying full price for the game unless you're just like a really big sci-fi nerd and you really want a good sci-fi experience. If you want a good spaceship experience, I highly recommend Elite Dangerous 2. Or sorry, Elite Dangerous, not 2, but Elite Dangerous instead. Because it is the far superior spaceship game. Probably the best spaceship flight simulator type of a game that exists. Super fun. I have like 500 hours in Elite Dangerous. And I own like all of the ships. It's super sweet. Did the CPU usage drop? I mean, it's doing over 100 watts. I'm pretty sure it didn't drop. Yeah, it's doing over 100 watts at QHD. It just wasn't set to the right resolution yet, probably when you made that. Descent Free Space 2. Ooh. Yeah, that's a pretty good one. You know, Star Citizen, I think Star Citizen is going to be a great competitor to Elite Dangerous, especially for VR-enabled games, because they just announced their VR experimental VR launch with Star Citizen. So like apparently some of the Star Citizen devs have been playing Star Citizen in VR, and they basically made a VR mode that you can now play as a player. And I need to try it out because I have played the majority of my hours that I played Elite Dangerous, I played in VR. And I really enjoyed playing a spaceship game in VR. It's probably like the most immersive feeling game. Like Elite Dangerous 2 has actual controllers you can order from Logitech that match the cockpit joysticks visually identically, so that when you put on the VR headset and then you reach down with your hands and you hold the controllers, and it's like all the buttons are positioned exactly the same, the throttle is positioned the same. So and the in-game hands move to the buttons whenever you press the buttons. So like the immersion factor of like you press the button and then the finger inside the game moves and press the button too, you feel like you're in the game. It is really, really cool. I actually ordered a VR motion chair that can turn, swivel, pivot, and tilt and rumble. It was like $4,000, and they have never sent it to me. They still have not sent it to me. Yeah, I think I may have lost that money. Crazy, absolutely crazy. But yeah, I should probably email them again. I've been waiting for like 4 or 5 years for them to send it. It was a part of a Kickstarter project, and they had made other Kickstarter products successfully, and I was going to be on their influencer team, and they were going to send me the product first before everyone else. I need to check up on that product. I think it was 3 or 4 years ago when I ordered it. And they were like, yeah, it'll come next year. And then it was delayed. And they were like, yeah, it'll come next year. We're working out kinks. And then it's like, now we're having production issues. And then, I don't know, that was the last I heard, having production issues, and then things are delayed. So, I don't know. Didn't I use PayPal? Well, the thing is, PayPal usually has a time window in terms of how long you can dispute the thing. And it was like, like well over a year before I started having doubts as to whether it even be delivered. So, I don't know. Skipping the cinematic because we're just going to benchmark you. Graphics. Everyone wants to see how this game performs on low. Textures on max. I love that you put it to low, but textures are still maxed. Like, the developers know how people play. I like it. DLSS on quality, though. We could probably run that also. In theory, we could also run that on native, but I think people would probably play that on quality, though I don't even think it would affect the FPS. Like, you're running this native or quality will probably be the exact same FPS because we should be super CPU bound. Well, maybe not. Maybe putting on quality is worth it, because I think this may still benefit from GPU power. Okay, we'll put it to quality because that's what we do. Low with DLSS on quality. I think we're in QHD resolution though. Look at our FPS. Like the afterburner and the colors of the system. I think we're at QHD resolution. So I think this is the QHD resolution test. Yeah, it was YA VR. That's right. Light. That was the company. YA VR 2, I think, was the name of the chair. Yeah, now it costs $4,200. This is basically what I ordered right here. Okay. So. It doesn't look like the company went out of business, but I never got my product, so I should follow up with them and be like, yo, where's my product? And if they don't, I should make a video about how they scammed me out of my money, because that's ridiculous and shouldn't happen to anybody. All right. So we were pretty dang CPU bound there, especially at the end. 417 FPS. I think we were doing 170 something for our 1% lows. They have to look at right at the end before this thing pops up to see, but overall excellent performance. That's actually phenomenal, I think. That's very, very good. I believe the HX3D did over 500 FPS. Hey, buddy. Hi. Hello. You can't hit the camera, buddy. You can be here, but you can't hit the camera. Can we make a deal? Will you make that deal with me? Okay, let's change the display. Yeah, we were at QHD. We'll go to the 4K, and now the colors look better. And let's see what we get. We'll benchmark one again. They made a statement. What's the statement? I wonder what the statement is. I gotta look up my emails on it all and double check it. All right, so we are reaching 95% GPU utilization here at 4K, which makes me think we're at least partially GPU bound. CPU is hitting 68 watts, 70 watts, 265 FPS. So we're hitting the 240 hertz refresh rate on the screen. So yeah, I mean, I'd probably still just play this at 4K plus and just rock it. Unless you really want to play at full HD plus, then you can go into probably the 400 FPS mark. Light, can you give me the summary of the statement? Like, what is the statement about, or are they saying it's delayed, or is it still am I still gonna get it like randomly in the mail, delivered to my old house or something that I'm not even living at anymore? Like, what's gonna happen with that thing? 268, over 200 FPS for 1% low. Very nice overall performance for 4K plus. Whew. I like it. I think a lot of people would love to play Rainbow Six Siege on this laptop. Okay, where winds meet. I have a benchmarking city for us to use for the benchmark. So what is important is that we have not given up. We keep delivering, albeit at a slow pace, to our backers, and we are confident that as possible fundraising will solve this problem almost overnight. Interesting. Okay, well, maybe it would help them to fundraise if they could deliver not only their backers. I was one of the very, very first people to order it on a Kickstarter, but also an influencer, someone who could help them sell more units, right? Like, if they could actually deliver it to me, that would be super smart of them. Okay, so where winds meet. We are in the city of Qinghe. I think that's how you say it. But we are going to benchmark this first on ultra. I think we're just going to do ultra settings. I don't think we're going to do low settings for this game. Graphics preset is set to ultra. We have FSR with quality upscaling at 66. Hey, buddy, that hurts. Please stop. Please, I love you. He's licking my arm with his little sandpaper tongue. And I'm in so much pain right now. My God. I love you. Yes, I do. I know, you love me too. Okay. All right, so 4K plus ultra, where winds meet, running through the city of Qinghe. Or whatever it is. I'm sorry, I don't know Chinese pronunciation very well. But we're going to follow this path. whenever I benchmark this game, and this will be the benchmark. All right, and we're gonna run over to this edge, and then look up over at this thing, and wow, dawn happened right as we. Okay, so 101.64. Let's try running it again now, and see if we get more than 100 FPS. I believe we go down here. Okay. No? No? All right. So let's see if we get more FPS in daylight than we do at nighttime, or if it's going to be similar. All right, so running through the same path, same settings, just daylight now instead of nighttime. Looks like daytime is slightly less FPS from the look of it. So we got 5 FPS less when running through daytime. So I don't know what that means in terms of benchmarking this, but we probably got to do daytime and daytime if we're going to do a fair benchmark comparison. That's probably what we're going to go for. Is daytime benchmarking. The game is really beautiful. It's a great little MMO, graphically speaking. All right, let's see if we can change our resolution. Though I don't think I would normally try to change it. Okay, so no. Stop. No. That hurts. Ow. Yes, that hurts, buddy. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry. I know you really want to. Keep licking me nonstop. Okay, so it looks like we cannot lower the resolution successfully. There, we got it to go, okay, 2560 by 1600. Ultra preset FSR on Ultra. Okay, and we're running through. Oh. So it looks like we become CPU bound there. As we go through the city, we become CPU bound. That's interesting. As we leave the city, we start becoming not CPU bound again. 109.70. So that's really interesting. I'm guessing if we go... If we go over to like the edge of the town where we don't have as many NPCs and buildings, we'll get... What is this thing scrolling across the top of my screen right now? Do we get more FPS or is it pretty much the same? Looks like at least at QHD we're largely CPU bound still. Still not hitting max GPU bounding. So very CPU bound game generally speaking, at QHD at least. Let's see, if we go back up to 4K. Hey, that hurts, bud. Okay. Okay. Now, at 4K, we are GPU bound. Lay down. Good boy. I know. I love you. So 111 FPS, 106 is where we are GPU bound, 100% GPU utilization. But CPU bounding is not much different, is what I'm going to say for this game. CPU is only going to let us get up to like 120, 130, 140 range. But I have to put you away. I'm sorry. I cannot. I can't. I know. I know. You can go outside for a little while, okay? Yeah, you love being outside. You go. I love that little guy, but man, it is a challenge sometimes. Because he likes hitting the camera or licking me, well, and I got to use two hands when I'm benchmarking, so I can't, hold him with one arm. So, wow, my right arm is like licked raw right now. Oh my gosh, the cat wants screen time. Yeah, he wants love. He's a needy kitty cat, and I'll give him lots of love. I give him lots of love every day, but I can't give it to him in the middle of the live stream every time. So, this game is gorgeous to play on 4K plus ultra settings. You're actually maximizing the GPU for the most part, largely. 100% GPU utilization often. Getting really smooth gameplay. I like it. All right, so let's go ahead and go to The Witcher 3. Get our benchmark done for The Witcher 3. Let's see here. Reddit says the following: hey, screwed up. Their backers took the money. Now they're planning the next move, like consulting with lawyers before releasing a statement. We were only able to deliver 300 of the 1,200 simulators ordered. Oh my. Our capital ran out, all of which was fully spent on development and manufacturing. So now we're trying to keep delivering to our backers from our income. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Well, I should have been one of the people that they delivered to. I could have maybe helped sell some more units, and maybe they could have succeeded as a company. Maybe. I don't know. Who knows? But I definitely would have made a good detailed review of it and see if it is actually good. And if it is actually really good, then maybe it would have helped sell. I don't know. Okay, so video. Let's go to full screen 4K. Good. Graphics. Ray tracing on Ultra. DLSS is on Quality. Frame generation is enabled, so 4K plus. Ray tracing enabled, though I typically recommend not running this with ray tracing on. Unless you just have really absurdly powerful hardware.
Tale begins near White Orchard, with my dear friend Geralt of Rivia seeking his lover of yore, the sorceress Yennefer. She'd eluded him for years, but now seemed just a few
Witcher
steps
3,
ahead.
another game I highly recommend, especially with the remake, where they remastered it with ray tracing and everything. Really great storytelling and really fun gameplay overall. Okay, so we have frame generation on. We're looking to hit 90 FPS in this title, if we can. And we're really, really close. So it'd still probably be playable at this 80 FPS mark. But yeah, if it was me, I'd just be like, okay, all the same settings, just turn ray tracing off. But then you have DLSS and frame gen on, and you're probably going to go into like the 150 FPS mark from that, turning off ray tracing. I don't know. Maybe 120 FPS. Hard to say. So we're really close to the 90 FPS mark. So you could play with ray tracing on and get a mostly optimal experience, but dipping in and out of the ideal FPS is not great in my opinion. So 86, 69 for our 1% low and average FPS. Now, if I give you this with ray tracing off, let's see what we get. 130. Okay, so around 130 FPS with ray tracing off. And like I said, I think the game looks pretty much as good with ray tracing on or off. Because the game was originally designed not to have ray tracing, and the original shadowing is pretty dang good in my opinion. Alright, so QHD Plus is next. Notice how the colors get messed up. Drop into QHD Plus. We'll just run back. Sorry about the mess. Yeah. Yeah, it sucks. I mean, I don't know what else. I mean, I don't know what to do, you know? The reality is they probably paid their engineers and developers too much, didn't run the company at a light enough clip, or maybe they just didn't charge enough for each of the products that they were trying to sell, you know? They should have charged less. Something had to change to make the business model viable. Okay, so QHD Plus, everything on Ultra with ray tracing on. Here we go.
Variance.
136, 117. And to me, I think this showcases the difference between having a 4K display and a QHD display. You know, you want to play games with all the settings on, maxed out, and everything, and you're getting like crazy FPS. That's where you get like the QHD Plus display instead of the 4K Plus display, and you're getting just as much. I think for the most part, it looks identical to your eyes, a native QHD Plus to a 4K Plus on this size of a panel, and yet you just get way more FPS naturally. So 153, 121 at QHD Plus. I think that's actually really, really good. I think that's really, really good. And we should have a comparison graph for this value, 153, 121, and it's probably going to be one of the best values we've ever seen. Let's turn off ray tracing and let's see what we get. No ray tracing, 255 FPS. Now we are freaking smooth right here. So, with 4K Plus, I guess you just got to use another lower setting on the upscaling in this game. And it'll still look pretty much as good as the QHD Plus. But at that point, what's the point of the 4K display? You know? It'll, visually it'll look identical, you know? So, 240 FPS with the ray tracing off. Wow. That's crazy. Let's hear. If we, for funsies, let's go down to 1200p.
Non-humans.
Now The Witcher 3 doing 300 FPS. Wow. Schwinga. So, I mean, if you really want a super, super smooth experience, though, it's probably pretty much pointlessly smooth. You could use this. Use the 440 hertz and get like 300 FPS in The Witcher 3. Very nice. Okay. I think QHD Plus is best for gaming, yeah. I mean, you just got to use more upscaling. Okay, so I think we have a comparison graph here in a moment. Is it ready? Okay. We will have a comparison graph soonish. I'm looking at the value here. Wow, we had a really good performance. Let's see here. I'm looking at the graph on here. It says 136. I don't think that's right? I think it was 150. Yeah, so we're waiting a moment for the graph on The Witcher 3. But let's review, okay? So, the Legion 9i, we are getting very solid performance. All in all, we're looking at top tier CPU performance in terms of CPU on an Intel processor with no hard stutters. Reliability, I would say, in games was very good. There was very little glitchiness, and 1% lows generally were pretty dang good, even though we had DDR5 5200 megatransfer memory. Now, some of the 1% lows, I believe, were worse than the Legion Pro 7i, but generally they were pretty competitive with most of the products on the market. Our overall benchmarks that we ran on this system were very good. We have all the comparison graphs made now, and interestingly enough, if we go to the Witcher 3 benchmark, we've got the Legion 9i at the top of the chart, beating out the 9955 HX3D 5090 with 147 versus 153. I think this is probably due to it being still super GPU bound, and the fact that the GPU in the Legion 9i is likely using a few more watts of power, running at slightly higher clock speeds. So we're going to get better performance in the Witcher 3. And the CPU just doesn't matter because it's not CPU bottlenecked that much. Also, this may have been calculated with frame view, and this was calculated with Afterburner for 1% lows, so that may also be a slight difference in how it's calculated. Because I was noticing the Afterburner giving us like 20 more FPS for 1% lows. I really need to standardize which FPS calculator I'm running. But you can really see how performance scales from a 5070 Ti low power all the way to the 5090. And we're almost getting double the performance on a high power 5090 versus a low power 5070 Ti. We're going to have more benchmarks soon. We're going to do the 5060 and the RTX 5050, which I have on the shelf behind me. We've got the Xbox ROG Xbox Ally X with the new RDNA 3.5, 16 compute unit Radeon 890M GPU. We'll be benchmarking that soon as well. So this concludes the game benchmarks portion of the Legion 9i review. Now we're going to do the hands-on unboxing stuff where we flex test, check out the BIOS, keyboard, mouse, B-roll, shooting, all of that in the next live stream. And then that should be all the data capturing for the Legion 9i, and then we can edit all that down into the final review. And then we're going to move on to the next laptop, probably, which will probably be one of those Asus Toughs back there. I've got 3 of them to benchmark. So maybe we can do more than one at the same time. Maybe we can do a side-by-side, head-to-head. I don't know. We'll have to see. But because that could give us some really good valuable data on like 5050 versus 5060 levels of data or levels of performance. Let me check chat one more time before we end the live stream. Are you going to be in, and what are your thoughts on CES 2026? Yeah, I'll be at CES 2026. I've got meetings with all of the major brands of laptop manufacturers, like already lined up pretty much. Light says, I have the Legion Go 2. Nice device, love it. Yeah, it has the same processor as the Xbox Ally X. Just, it's so good at running AAA games on low settings, or like lightweight titles like Hades 2 at high settings and high frame rates. It's just so good. That processor is a big improvement over the original ROG Ally. Chancellor says, wait, is this over already? I just got here. Yeah, we've been streaming for a couple hours already. Yeah, this is live. It's not a pre-recorded premiere. So this is the end of a 3-part live stream series that we're going to do a 4th part to, which will be the unboxing and hands-on portion of the Legion 9i, which should last for more than an hour, between 1 to 2 hours in the next live stream. So about 8 hours total live streaming on the Legion 9i. Hope you guys enjoy all of the detailed testing. We'll see you in the next one. Brandon, out.